All right, Sharyl Attkisson about to join us, ladies and gentlemen. But first, let's watch this together.
Why are U.S. troops in Estonia on Russia's doorstep? They're part of a NATO force, which Donald Trump has called obsolete and in need of readjusting to meet the new realities of terrorism. We'll go to Estonia to see firsthand the buildup of equipment and troops. It's an escalation of forces not seen since the Cold War to counter what some might describe as a red storm rising under Russian President Putin.
All right, folks, that is Sharyl Attkisson, and she joins us right now. Emmy Award Winning Journalist, host of Full Measure with Sharyl Attkisson. Of course, that's the promo for a Sunday show that you just heard, and she's also the author of Stonewalled. Hey, Sharyl.
Hi there. How are you?
Good to talk to you. Now, this is very timely. First of all, I understand on your show you're going to have an interview with Donald Trump. And yesterday, behind closed doors, a bunch of Republican senators actually grilled the Secretary General of NATO over exactly what Donald Trump is complaining about. That we pay the bulk of the freight, and the other countries, including Germany, the fourth largest economy in the world, doesn't meet the 2% threshold of their GNP to help fund NATO.
Well, and you're just talking about the operating costs there, which is disproportionate. But when you look at the military costs of NATO, so-called indirect, we pay 73%, according to NATO, of that cost, even though there's 28 nations.
So crazy Donald Trump isn't so crazy after all. You're also, correct me if I'm wrong, going to focus on, Donald Trump has also talked about, redoing NATO and making them more, terrorism fighting friendly, if you will, and making them more, I guess, useful. And in the case of Benghazi, there was testimony before Congress, I believe you could fill me in, that we didn't even call for any NATO help in the area because we didn't think they could do it.
Yeah, I thought about the case of Benghazi when Trump brought up the idea that NATO is not configured to help against the terrorist threat, even though, we're 28 member countries that have agreed to mutually defend one another. But the biggest threat today, most would agree, is terrorism. And yet NATO is not structured for that. And with Benghazi, when it was claimed by the administration that there were no assets that could have helped, which actually was disputed, but let's assume that was true, there's tons of NATO assets in that region, and NATO is commanded by a U.S. general, a Supreme Allied Commander, and it was asked by Congress, I remember during that time, gee, did we think to call upon NATO, borrow, a few of their hundreds of planes or something? Was there any idea to do that? And the general said, oh, no, they never would have helped anyway. We didn't bother to ask. It's not what they do. So I think, in a way, you might be surprised to hear me say Trump has a point on that. If NATO is our biggest defense alliance and yet not postured or ready to discuss the threat of terrorism and how they handle that, maybe it does need some modernizing or at least a discussion about it.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And folks, for more, check out Full Measure with Sharyl Attkisson. Check your local listings on this Sunday. All right, boy, it's getting really crazy. By the way, and the way the media reported that whole NATO thing was, and his opponents too, on the Republican side, Trump wants us to withdraw from NATO or disband NATO, which of course couldn't be further from the truth. But I'm sure you'll address that with Donald Trump in your interview. Can't wait to see that. Politically, we now have the Democrats going at it in much the same way the Republicans have been and continue to go at it. A war has erupted between Hillary and Bernie as they both campaign in New York.
Well, there's got to be just a little bit of resentment on the table, same as the Republican side. There are many Democrats who are learning for the first time, as a lot of us are, exactly how the system works and how each party sets up its rules and changes them every 4 years, primarily to give advantages, so they say, to the candidates they thought and hoped would win. In the case of Republicans, they set up the rules in a way they thought would benefit Jeb Bush, but they didn't anticipate a Trump. In the case of Democrats, the rules are set up apparently to benefit Hillary Clinton, so Bernie Sanders can win 6 states in a row and have, what looks like good momentum and yet almost zero chance because of the way they've configured their, super delegates and so on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't know if you've seen this. I want to put up on the screen. The New York Daily News had a message for Ted Cruz, and I want your journalistic opinion, if you would give it. Take the FU train, Ted, and they have the circles. If you've been in New York, you've seen the subways are by letter, and they have each a different colored circle, the letters within the circle, and FU is proudly, boldly up there. you know, they talk about the tone and tone and tone, and this is a hugely left-wing liberal newspaper telling Ted Cruz to, you know, F you. Is that appropriate?
Well, you're asking a journalistic question about an entity that's not really addressing journalism, in my view. These papers and their, you know, papers and publications on both sides like that, they're sort of the old-fashioned equivalent of the modern-day blog that blur journalism and, you know, opinion in a way that kind of confuses everything together, smears it all up as one. I think that's very much in line with what they've done in the past, and I don't think it's journalism.
Yeah, and of course it comes, as I said, at the same time that the same left-wing media, you know, scolds the lack of civility. The president scolds the lack of civility on the Republican side, and Trump specifically, and then they go and do something like this. It just seems hypocritical, no?
Yeah, I mean, it's just not unexpected, but I think you can find that on all sides, yes.
All right. Sharyl, we look forward to the show, and thank you very much for joining us again. Appreciate it.